It's the biggest, baddest, most iconic truck in the world, and the only car on Bumper to Bumper that I'm terrified to start.
Grave Digger!
So how did something with such humble beginnings get to what you see behind me? So perk up, you little babies, and pay attention. We're going ghost flames to headstone, full moon to haunted house, bumper to bumper. I can't believe I'm about to say this. I'm freaking Grave Digger! Lately, I feel like there's a lack of energy from my cohorts around the donut office. I need the rest of the staff to match my energy. This should help. Looking a bit tired, my friend. How about a nice energy drink? Zach, looking Zacadasical. How about a nice energy drink? Eddie, a nice energy drink for you too, you lad. Bridget, getting up to speed with nice energy drink. Oh, Felipe, my favorite one. Have a nice energy drink. Max, working hard on the bumper to bumpers. Have a nice energy drink. Management is easy. Like any good car origin story, the true beginning of Grave Digger starts with the buff horse. The horses that pulled the most weight over the greatest distance were deemed the buffest. Once the tractor came along, these competitions naturally transitioned from testing the power of horses to testing the power of tractors. And the motorsport of tractor pulling was born. These tractor pulls also featured other fan favorite spectacles at halftime, like mud bogging and funny car dirt dragster pulling. But it was in 1983 when the first Car Crush exhibition got everyone all hopped up on trucks with big wheels. This was the beginning of what would soon be known as monster truck racing. Back in 1982, Dennis Anderson, a farmhand at the time, had a rust red 52 Ford pickup truck with a Chevy small block motor in it. So he jacked it up, threw some tractor tires on it, and started competing in mud bog races in his free time. And like the farmers before him, he also partook in the age-old sport of trash talking with your buddies. During one of these good-natured verbal razz sessions, he told one of his fellow mudboggers, who had a newer truck, that he'd take this old junk and dig you a grave with it. And the name Grave Digger just stuck. Of course it did. It's the coolest freaking name ever. Anderson made the switch from mud bogging to good old monster trucking when the truck scheduled to do a car crush at a local pull event just didn't show up. Dennis offered to take his place, and he did not disappoint. All those cars got super crushed, and Grave Digger started touring around a local tractor pull event, smashing cars at halftime. Now, as advancements in car crushing technology progressed, Anderson switched up the chassis and built a new monster truck. A truck that would form the basis for the one that you see here. That next Grave Digger, a 1951 Ford panel truck, originally sported a gray and blue paint scheme. But the colorway didn't really give off the chilling vibe that he wanted. So he went down to a local auto body shop and asked them to come up with something that matched the truck's spooky name. What he got was ghost flames, a grave site with headstones bearing the names of the trucks he put in the grave, and a ghostly looking skull watching over the grave site from above. Even today, the Grave Digger trucks are still hand painted, which is crazy because these things get smashed the F up a bunch. Now the body on this truck is actually based on a 1951 Chevy panel wagon. Anderson made the switch from Ford to Chevy in 1989, matching the exterior to the Chevy big block powering this beast. That same year, I made the switch from diapers to Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle briefs, and I've never looked back. Another iconic part of the Grave Digger is its pair of ominous red headlights. Now Dennis was in his shop looking at his newly painted truck when he got an idea. He had previously built a hauler out of an old school bus to transport Grave Digger to events. And it just so happened that these same headlights were laying out on his workbench as he admired his new truck. 30 minutes later, the swap was done, and the sinister headlights have been on every Grave Digger ever since. Whee! Obviously, one of the things that makes a Monster Jam truck a Monster Jam truck are the freaking tires. These big boys are massive, 66 inches tall. That's 5 feet 6 inches. That's as tall as Lil Wayne. They're also 43 inches wide, or the waist measurement of Nolan's dungarees. Due to the massive amount of volume inside these tires, they only require about 23 PSI of air to be all pumped up. To put that into perspective, your average car tire is around 35 PSI. When coming down from a jump, the tires can flatten almost completely. I mean, you got a 12,000 pound truck falling 40 freaking feet. So yes, stuff's gonna get compressed. The total weight of these massive wheels and tires is about 645 pounds each. And if you're interested in picking up a set for yourself, get your mom's checkbook out, because the price of one of these bad boys is about $3,000 just for the tires. There are 4 nitrogen charged shocks on each corner of Gravedigger. Now, unlike leaf springs that had only about 6 inches of travel, these shocks have 30 inches of travel and are specifically made for the Monster Jam truck industry. The chassis of this digger is nothing like the original Chevy panel wagons. In the early years of car crushing, drivers like Anderson had to worry about bending and breaking their frames. Put on bigger wheels? Great, now you break your friggin' axles. Put on bigger axles? Now you need a beefier frame. That added more weight, so now you needed more power, baby! And the cycle continued, eventually getting to the point where even a reinforced truck frame needed to be stronger, but also lighter for performance sake. I mean, these friggin' things do jumps. This all led up to the construction of a custom steel tube chassis. These chassis are now built by CRD, the company that builds almost all of the Monster Jam truck chassis. The bottom half of the chassis on this digger is the same as every other Feldon truck. This allows the trucks to have as many interchangeable parts as possible. And in any sort of motorsport, that's helpful. But the top half is unique to Gravedigger, designed specifically to fit the famous Chevy panel wagon body. You know, I've been told that I have a bit of a Chevy panel wagon body. Inside of the digger is a single center seat with 5-point harness to keep you from flopping all over the place, which is important because this truck likes to flip around a lot. It's got an instrument panel with gauges for oil pressure, temperature, voltage, a handle that will shut the truck off and cut the fuel pump if pulled. Like all Monster Jam trucks on the circuit, Gravedigger has rear steering in addition to the traditional front wheel steering. This switch right here is all you need to turn those massive 66-inch tires. It's an electric driven hydraulic pump operation. Click the switch left, rear wheel turns left. Click it to the right and it turns right. Sounds easy, right? Well, that also means when turning, the driver only has one hand on the wheel. I don't even drive my car with one hand. 10 and 2, always. Front steering uses a conventional belt-driven power steering pump. Unlike most conventional power steering systems, this one uses a relief valve to blow off excess pressure. If it didn't have this valve, a hard front wheel landing could generate enough back force in the lines to jerk the steering wheel so hard that it'll break your freaking fingers and your wrist. You can't dig a grave with a broken wrist. Another really cool safety feature is an onboard remote ignition interrupter. It's a way for someone outside of the truck to kill the engine if things get out of control and the driver can't shut off the truck themselves. So someone anywhere in this stadium could be like, oh no, it's getting too real. Shuts down. Now, this is cool. The gas pedal has a tow hook that will allow the driver to pull up on the accelerator in the event that it gets stuck. I wonder how often that happens. It's definitely happened once, for sure, else they wouldn't have this hook. It's really cool. There's plexiglass installed around the bottom of the cab on the inside of the wheel wells so that you can actually see what is happening to each wheel. Your field of vision is much worse than you think it would be being in a jacked up truck like this. But the coolest part of the interior is the start button. I'm about to start up Grave Digger. The dude just turned it off with a walkie. Sick. Powering Grave Digger is a MERLIN 540 cubic inch supercharged methanol fueled reaper of a motor, making 1,500 horsepower. It needs all them horsepower to send this 12,000 pound truck 40 feet in the air. Now these things take a beating through the course of a season, so reliability takes a front seat to power. A reliable 1,500 horsepower motor. Sick. The placement of the power plant is important too. The Grave Digger team was one of the first to mount the engine in the rear of the truck for better weight distribution. Most all Monster Jam trucks on the circuit do that today, but it was Grave Digger that led the way. Monster trucks are freaking awesome. Let's be real, these trucks are engineering marvels. They take abuse and punishment that no other vehicle in the world could withstand, and they do it constantly. The Monster Jam circuit has 350 shows a year in the US alone, and the Grave Digger team sends a truck to every show. That's why there are 9 of these big hogs competing and traveling all over the world, showing everyone what the Grave Digger does best: entertain the heck out of you.